I call the Tuesday, April 9th, 2019 regular meeting of the Portsmouth City Council to order, and Councilman Bill Moody will lead us, council members, with the invocation. And then after that, I'll ask everybody to stand as Councilman Moody leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's bow our heads. Lord, we thank you for this day that you've given us. We thank you for the opportunity to come together as a Portsmouth family to share our ideas and our concerns. Lord, we ask that you be with us as we conduct this meeting, that you have us be respectful for those who may disagree with us. We ask that you keep us from being disagreeable. And Lord, as we leave this meeting, we ask that you keep all the attendees safe in their journey back home. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, to members of council, please indicate your presence by hitting the yes button. And Madam Clerk, we have 100% attendance. Our next item of business is consideration of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. We have the minutes of a call meeting of March 25th, 2019, the minutes of a call meeting of March 26, 2019, and the minutes of a regular meeting of March 26, 2019. We'll consider these all together. So motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve all 3 sets of minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Madam Clerk, will you read the protocol for speakers, please?
Yes, sir. City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your remarks at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his/her comments.
Thank you, ma'am. We actually have 5 public hearings tonight, and we'll do them individually. The first public hearing is item 19-139, which is a public hearing to solicit comments on the annual action plan. And Madam Clerk, do you have a caption to read?
19-139, public hearing to solicit citizen comments on the annual action plan.
Okay, the protocol for the public hearing. This is a public hearing. You do not have to register in advance to speak. If you desire to speak, please come to the lectern. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. We do have one person who has signed up to speak for this particular public hearing, and I'll call that person first, but first I'll open the public hearing. This is the public hearing on the annual action plan, and this public hearing is now open. And the registered speaker is Donna Sy, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. Public hearing 19-139 is a public hearing to solicit citizens' comment on the annual action plan. So what action plan is that? Is the budget at a glance what you are referring to? We, the people, needed the CFO to have met with the civic leagues and gave a report that all the people could understand. There was no citizen engagement on this annual action plan. The elected from the 5 government service areas did not be responsive to the needs of the people. And this needs to be done before you finalize the budget. So I created 5 districts so that people would be engaged with the people that are elected instead of having a little clique up there on city council. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience want to speak on this public hearing, which is item 19-139, which is a public hearing on the annual action plan? If you desire to speak, again, please come to the lectern and you'll be given 5 minutes to speak. Anybody desiring to speak at this public hearing? Hearing none, this public hearing is closed. And Madam City Manager, we don't have to take action on this tonight. Okay. Our next public hearing is 19-140A. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption for this public hearing?
Yes. 19-140A, public hearing to consider the annual operating budget for FY 2020.
All right, this is our first of our public hearings on the budget, and this is on the annual operating budget. It's not on the capital budget. That comes next, and it's not on the tax rates. This is a public hearing on the operating budget. And before I open the public hearing, it looks like we might have as many as 10 to 12 people who've already signed up to speak. After I call on the pre-registered speakers, anybody that wants to speak, I'll invite you to come to the lectern. With that, I declare the public hearing on item 19-140A, the public hearing on the annual operating budget for fiscal year 2020 to be open. And I'll call the first registered speaker, and that is Nicole Ward. Please come to the lectern and state your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Nicole Ward. I live at 314 Sneed Fairway in Portsmouth. My name is Nicole Ward, and I'm here tonight to represent the faculty and staff of Churchland Academy Elementary School. I have 12 years of teaching experience, 8 of which are in the city of Portsmouth. I'm not here tonight to tell you how many extra hours that I spend completing tasks not associated with actual teaching and why teachers deserve a raise. I'm here tonight to remind you of the importance of teachers and education and why funding teacher salaries in order to keep the best teachers is necessary to move the city of Portsmouth forward. I did a little research on each council member, the mayor, the vice mayor, and the city manager. In my research, I found that both the mayor and vice mayor, along with 3 out of 5 council members are proud products of Portsmouth Public Schools. The other members of the council, along with the city manager, may not be products of this fine school division. But you must love Portsmouth enough to want to serve the community in the capacity that you hold today, as well as live in this thriving city. The City of Portsmouth website provides a statement from the city manager, Dr. Patton. It states, and I quote, that the goal of the city manager is to create a bright and prosperous future redefined by collaboration, unification, and rededication through citizen and community engagement, creating the new Portsmouth. It goes on to state, to achieve our city's vision and move in a forward direction characterized by methodical deliberation and expediency with employees who work tirelessly to make the best decisions toward achieving the goals and setting the course. Here we are, Portsmouth City Council. I present to you the employees who work tirelessly to make the best decisions for the children in the city of Portsmouth. Teachers who deserve a raise because we're building the foundation to make this city better. Teachers who deserve to be recognized for their hard work and dedication to the population of citizens who cannot vote yet, but they will be soon. If you choose not to fund teacher raises and money is forfeited back to the state, then perhaps the vision for the city needs to be readjusting, as funding for the school division and keeping and hiring quality employees is not how we will move Portsmouth forward. It is my hope that you will reconsider this funding and provide the monies needed not only for teacher raises, but to fund all of the requests made by the school division. As an elected official in the city of Portsmouth, you would not be where you are today without a teacher. If you are truly a proud product of the education system and a proud citizen, then why are teachers and education not the top priority in the city of Portsmouth? If you are a proud product of the Portsmouth Public Schools, why would you not want to make it even better? We are losing quality teachers each year to other divisions and other careers. Some of it is out of the frustration of the job, but a lot of the reasons are because of the salaries. Without quality teachers, we will not build successful leaders like you to keep the city moving forward. Without quality teachers, the city will not attract families, taxpayers, or businesses. The overall success of this city starts with education. I'm here tonight to ask you to please fund teacher raises. Please fund our school system and allow us to keep quality teachers, to purchase necessary resources and move our school system in a positive direction. Remember that you are successful because of a teacher, and we want future generations to have the same success that you have experienced. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate the applause, but this is going to be a long public hearing, so let's be respectful. Our rules require no public display, and so please respect each speaker. Our next speaker is Bill Hayden, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
I'll get to my location in just a minute. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Many of you know me, but for those who don't, I'm Bill Hayden. I live in Virginia Beach. I'm a retired admiral, and I'm the founder of the Starbase Victory Program here in Portsmouth. As I said, I live in Virginia Beach, and I've often been asked, why did you start a math science program in Portsmouth? And my simple answer is because Dr. Trumbull asked me to back in 2002. Both of us believed at the time that teaching elementary school children math and science play an important part in their lives was critical to their future development and opened them to interesting opportunities for their future. And I still believe in that. So does the board of directors at Starbase. At least one is here in this room. Currently, half of our board members do not live in Portsmouth. So why are they contributing by being on our board of directors? Well, for the same reason I do. A high tide raises all boats, and the kids deserve the very best education we can give them. It turns out that Starbase happens to be a unique program in the entire Hampton Roads area, and when these board members came and took a look at Starbase, they wanted to be a part of it. So I think it's important to understand that our dedicated instructors teach over 3,000 kids a year. If you haven't watched the kids during one of their classes or come to one of their rocket launches and capture the excitement of the moment, I strongly urge you to do so. Many of you have. This is an open invitation to come to Starbase and see what this program is all about. Well, why am I here tonight? Not just to talk about Starbase. I almost threw my notes away after hearing the previous speaker. I'm concerned about the apparent value of education in Portsmouth because where you put your money is where your interests lie. Failing to support the school board's funding requests sends a message to everybody. Where are the priorities? Education should be a clear priority for every city. Failing to support the school board requests also leads me to be concerned about the future of Starbase, because we are a very expensive adjunct to the school budget. Our instructors, however, are literally launching the future of your students. The results of this year's SOL cycle aren't in yet, but I can tell you, and if you didn't know, from last year's cycle, the only school system that showed an increase in science was this one, Portsmouth. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that, and you should be too. So you should be a little bit concerned about losing Starbase. Frankly, if you lost it, I'd get to play more golf. So it's not that big a deal to me, but it is important to your children. Now, I'm old, and I'm keenly aware of the many programs that vie for dollars in something as complex as a city. I only had 6,000 sailors on my aircraft carrier, but it was a small city. Operational expenses are definitely important. I would never say to give up operational expenses. But if leadership fails to invest in the future, many of today's operational expenses will go for naught. If the workforce is not ready to embrace the jobs of the future, the new businesses will go to other cities, and the jobs will go to those kids who do get the better education. You know the numbers better than I do, and so I won't repeat them with you today. But if your argument for holding the line on the school budget is to force Dr. Bracey to make the hard decisions, I get that, but it's a little bit painful. With level funding, if he does not come up with that 3% salary raise that the previous speaker talked about, teachers are going to walk and parents are going to vote. That's a problem for all of us. Now, I don't speak for Dr. Bracey, but I certainly support him. And I know those pay raises are critical.
Sure, your
and
time
my
is
time
up.
is up, and so have a nice day, and please reconsider funding the education program.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Leanne ODell. And ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Council. My name is Leanne ODell, and I'm a Portsmouth resident and parent. My daughter graduated from Churchland High School in 2017, and my son will enter Churchland in 2020. I have made my home in the region since 1982 and would describe myself as a regional resident because I'm that rare breed of resident who has lived, gone to school, or worked in nearly every city in the region. I'm a product of Virginia Beach City Public Schools, Virginia Wesleyan College, and the College of William and Mary. I'm also a lifelong educator, completing a 25-year career with the University of Virginia this summer. In my role at the university, I've had the pleasure of working with school divisions across Virginia on professional learning curriculum for teachers and administrators, including time working with Portsmouth Public Schools through both Claude Parent and Laura Nelson. Additionally, for 3 years, I worked at the FBI Training Academy in Quantico, Virginia, on instructor development, curriculum revision, and incorporating best practices in instruction as the academic program director for criminal justice education, a 47-year partnership between UVA and the FBI. So in addition to being the parent of a Portsmouth Public School graduate, my professional life has been dedicated to transforming lives through opportunity. My daughter, Emily ODell, was given the opportunity to explore her STEM interests through the programs developed, including Starbase, which the gentleman spoke about a moment ago. She was a mentee who had a transformative, hands-on experience developing and deploying a nautical buoy to collect data on the Elizabeth River. That transformative experience opened her eyes to the power of hands-on learning, to service, and before that point, unknown acumen in STEM. Emily graduated from mentee to mentor in the summer before 9th grade when she spent 3 weeks working with 5th graders on the same project that she pursued several years earlier. It sparked an interest in her to work with children, helped hone her problem-solving skills, and gave her added confidence about her own abilities. Fast forward, Emily is currently completing her second year at Roanoke College, studying environmental science, public health, and religious studies. She's currently the sitting president of the Student Government Association. She's attending Roanoke as a Beasley Scholar, a Portsmouth Sports Foundation recipient, and a PIT scholarship recipient. While at Churchland, she was an active volunteer with the Elizabeth River Project, serving on a team of students who regularly participated in Paradise Creek cleanup. As a Roanoke Outreach Fellow, she led a team of students in restoring shoreline and planting oysters on the Outer Banks during her spring break this year. This kind of environmental stewardship from a young person is frankly the only thing in our current political climate that gives me hope that my great-grandchildren will have fresh air to breathe and fresh water to drink. The leadership opportunities afforded Emily while a student in Portsmouth Public Schools laid a firm foundation. Hands-on STEM-based activities under the guidance of talented educators and a nurturing environment of adults played a pivotal role in her development. Please do not allow the STAR-based program to become a sacrificial lamb of the budget process. Every local school division is striving to differentiate itself, to make a distinguishing mark. One of the reasons we have remained in Portsmouth is because this program and the dedication of funds to learning outside the classroom, because it is in those spaces that our children become who they're meant to be. I believe in Portsmouth, the power of public education, and I implore you to maintain funding for the Portsmouth public school system. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Garland Alexander, and sir, you got 5 minutes.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council Member, City Manager. My name is Garland Alexander, and I am a resident of Portsmouth. I'm here tonight to speak for all public safety retirees who have come before council numerous times to ask for some type of monthly increase in our retirement. We're here tonight asking once again for $100 across the board supplement for monthly pay. In budget year 2020, it will be 4 years since we have had any kind of increase in monthly pay. Our years of service, which involves working in these hazardous occupations, deserves our request. We want to take issue with some things that were stated in recent work sessions and meeting with the city manager and her staff. Mayor Rowe, you said at a recent work session to the manager, maybe we need to look at doing away with the HRA program. This program was your idea, Mayor. And is still saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. At the beginning of the program, there were 310 retirees 65 years or older. Now there are 284, which is $36,400 saved, additionally saved per year. This means that 26 retirees have died in 4 years. The city manager has never been in favor of the program, stating after 8 months it was a pilot program. We were never told when the city manager Rowe, but us out of city health and put us out of city health insurance. Now you want to discontinue the HRA program and fund the retirement system with the savings. The retirees who are affected Mostly are elderly, sick, and have occupational disease due to the hazardous jobs. The city manager stated a few years ago that she would never recommend a monthly raise for retirees due to the cost of the system. The past CFO stated that maybe we could look at a raise in 2040. Most of us won't be here in 2040. Elizabeth Gooden stated at a recent meeting that we are retiring at $80,000 and going to work for other cities, and that we could go on, get on and off the hospitalization at will. That hasn't been the case that I understood since I retired in 1995. The $80,000 figure retiree's salary was true only for a few people who retired after 2000 when the pay was increased due to HVRS hiring. At that time, 321 was a closed system, and the city was trying to compete with other cities to pay and overtime. It appears that to us that the manager wants to take away from the retirees and need it the most and correct the mistakes of past management and council who did not properly fund and manage the retirement system. We are asking that council not let this happen and give us the $100 across the board supplement per month, fund it, and keep the HRA program as is. Mayor, due to the recent remarks at the State of the City address, we are sure you can accomplish this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Brenda Joseph, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, members of council, and fellow citizens. Tonight I stand before you to bring to your attention some concerns I have with the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2020. One area of concern is the $25,744 decrease in the mosquito control budget. If you have been in Churchland lately, you will see that there are already mosquitoes in some places. Just imagine how it will be come this summer when it's hot and rainy and there's no place for the water to go, and it stands there and the mosquitoes continue to breed and you have to run everywhere you go because mosquito repellent doesn't work. Another concern is the $738,180 increase in leisure services. In the budget, a new category line item is created for tourism. What justification do you have for adding this, causing a large percentage of this increase? $340,000 of this increase is for the tourism piece. What do we have in Portsmouth? We have the Children's Museum. We have the Intellos when it gets fixed, or whatever the new name is for it now, Union Bank and Trust. We don't have Willett Hall anymore. We don't have the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. If we want to have a tourism budget, we need to have something here to bring the people here first before spending our money, that amount of money on it, especially when a lot of these activities are addressed in other parts of the budget. A third concern that I have is the $5,885,313 increase in the budget for municipal facilities. Which facilities are these? Is this number taking into consideration the possible relocation of City Hall? If so, which facilities need that kind of repair? At the same time you're doing this, the capital improvement amount in the budget for schools has decreased by $6 million. This is being done when we have buildings that have yet to be made safe should an intruder come into a school because they have open pod-style, cubicle-style classrooms. We also have schools, buildings that are so old, the walls no longer meet the floors. If you need to get a message to the teacher next door, you don't need to text him, you just slide it under your wall. Also, you have rats, mice, and snakes coming into the buildings due to them not being safe because they need these improvements. Another question I have is, have you driven down our streets lately? With the current condition of many of our roads, I can see no justification in decreasing the budget for drainage and street improvement by $4,130,200. Before long, many citizens and visitors and people who work here will have cars that could potentially have major damage due to unavoidable road hazards, such as large potholes and sinking sections of certain roads. A final question before my main concern is, does the $200 burial permit fee that is charged each time someone is buried in a city cemetery go to fill the trust fund that's listed in the budget? If not, it should, because people already have to pay $500 to have a grave open and closed. And that doesn't include the $100 permit fee for if you choose to be cremated that you get paid to, or have to pay to get buried in a mausoleum. My main concern is the proposed amount of funding for the school system. The city is losing 17 full-time employees, which equates to approximately 1%, yet there's an increase in the budget for the city. With an expected loss of about 1.5% of our students, Portsmouth Public Schools is receiving level funding. You are aware of the requirements for the state to provide money for raises for both city and school employees. The city must provide a certain amount. You have chosen to do this for city employees, but not for the school system employees. Every year, many people come before you to emphasize the importance of fully funding the school system's request for funds. Schools have many roles to fill in the lives of our students. To fill these roles, and I'll skip down because it's important that I read the last part of my speech. Education is the foundation for the future of our city. If you want more business to come to our city, you must have a population sufficient to meet their needs. In order to have this population, you must have people, especially families with children, who want to live and work in our city. To attract families with city, you must provide them with a high-quality education. To provide them with a high-quality education, you must provide the school system with the funding required to meet its needs, not wants, needs. Failure to do this will lead to people not wanting to live here. People not wanting to live here will result in businesses not wanting to come here. Businesses not wanting to come here will result in the city having less revenue. This becomes a vicious cycle which is detrimental to the quality of life of all involved. Thank you for listening to these concerns.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Claude Parent, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Claude Parent, and I reside at 802 Arnold Palmer Drive. I've had the honor of serving as the chairman of the Portsmouth School Board for the last 4 years, and now is beginning my 3rd term on the school board. Tonight I speak out of urgency. What is prompting the urgency? Candidly, the city manager's budget proposal does a disservice to Portsmouth Public Schools. By state law, a school board is mandated to place before its local funding body a budget of need. I can attest that the budget proposal submitted to city leadership on March the 22nd is not a budget of wants. It's truly a budget of need. Each year, the school board has crafted a reasonable expenditure plan, and for the vast majority of that time, the city's answering response has been anemic at best. As the governing body for your schools, we have reached the limits of our frustration. Our professional assessment of what it will take financially to move Portsmouth Public Schools forward has once again fallen on deaf ears. In our budget presentation to City Council, the city manager positioned level funding as if it were an accomplishment. Well, it's not. It's a travesty. Think of your own household budget for a moment. Could you live on what is basically the same amount of money in the context of rising costs each year? No, you couldn't. Because money doesn't go as far as time marches on, and some years require big investments, like repairing your home's foundation or replacing an old vehicle. So what do you think the school system, with 2,080 employees, 23 aging schools, 123 school buses and vehicles, and almost 14,000 students, can operate on level funding over and over and over again? Let me emphatically, it shouldn't have to. I'm frustrated by this city's position of how it funds its schools. City leadership refrain is, Portsmouth spends way beyond what the state requires for public schools. I have to say about that posturing, virtually every city and county in this state spends far above the minimum state requirements for their public education system. Why? Because if they didn't, they would have a citizens' revolt on their hands. If Portsmouth allocated only what the state requires through its standards of quality, and we have shared that with you several times at our joint meeting, our children would be the losers. Here are just a few examples of what their losses would be. 4 of our schools wouldn't have principals based on that formula. There would be 20 fewer assistant principals, 84 fewer teachers, which would translate into larger class sizes, 120 fewer special education assistants to help our students with the greatest need, and that sad list could go literally on and on. Is this acceptable to you, our stakeholders? I find it so dispiriting that Portsmouth ranks 7th out of the 7th Hampton Road cities in its per pupil spending. I understand Portsmouth is physically stressed and cannot meet the spending level as the city like Virginia Beach or Chesapeake. But when you look at the school system with its similar socioeconomics like Norfolk, Newport News, and Hampton, they all spend more on public education than Portsmouth does. Our next door neighbor, Norfolk, spends $122 more per student. Collectively, that adds up to $1.7 million. Think what we could do with that additional money. The school board is tired of the holding pattern of level funding, period. Our request for 2019-20 was reasonable and hopeful. If adopted, it would allow us to give our employees a 3% raise, add in-school suspension at 13 schools so we can keep children in school instead of in front of televisions or on the streets, ensure each of our high schools have a security officer, and add a cosmetology teacher at our growing CTE program. Instead, Portsmouth Public Schools is in an untenable position of having to make $3.1 million in cuts.
Sir, your time is up.
I implore you to adopt the budget. Thank you. And
Our
I do
next-
apologize for not addressing you at the beginning. Thank you.
You're fine. Our next speaker is Katie Vincent, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Co-Chair Lucas Burke. My name is Katie Benson, 3409 County Street, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23707. I stand before you this evening wearing red for education, asking that you support the superintendent budget and the staff to receive a raise. We have great people in the city of Portsmouth. You've heard it from different people already in the audience. We're losing people because, again, fighting over a budget. However, the cost of living, no additional money to cover bills, we have to work 2 and 3 jobs. The governor has proposed 3%, and we need a local city council to give us our fair share that we need. Traveling through the tunnel for some people, $2.20 one way, $2.20 back. That's $22 a week. We have people that do that. We have loving, qualified teachers who want to continue to do their work for the city of Portsmouth. However, also on that platform, a lot of you came to Portsmouth Education Association through our PAC program, and one of the main questions we had was fully funding Portsmouth teachers. We want you to be people of your word. Please do the right thing, and we hold you to what you put on your paper. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Dr. Eli Bracey, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, and members of council. I'm Dr. Eli Bracey, and I'm a Portsmouth resident. Thank you for this opportunity to weigh in on the city manager's proposed operating budget for next fiscal year. As Portsmouth superintendent, I will be direct. The proposal as it stands now will not serve the city public education system well. Once again, the city is proposing to level fund schools. What we're dealing with now is a cumulative effect of that level funding. Little to no financial growth over such a long period of time handicaps Portsmouth Public Schools. Number one, we can't pay teachers and other staff equitably because we continue to lose them because they leave the profession or move to better paying school systems. Number two, we can't expand student programming to better support today's 21st century skills. And perhaps most importantly, we are hampered in meeting the needs of a student population that is 76% economically disadvantaged. Let's consider teacher salaries, for example. Portsmouth ranks 5th out of the 7 Hampton Road cities in average teacher salaries. If you think salary doesn't matter, look at this data point. So far this school year, we've lost 69 teachers. Now let's look at the same time the previous school year when Portsmouth had the second highest starting salary for teachers. The loss then was only 31. In exit interviews, our principals, many teachers say they're leaving the profession because of high stress and low pay. So much expertise is lost in these instances because when we hire new teachers, they often are the ones that are just getting started in their careers. Then, when those teachers get experience under their belts, they tend to migrate to better paying school systems as well, and so the negative cycle continues. This is regrettable because research tells us that the quality of a classroom teacher is critical to student success. Our proposal to give our hard-working staff a 3% raise is in line with plans with other Hampton Road school systems. Another interesting point is that 48% of our 2,080 employees live in Portsmouth. They risk losing their spending power and, even more importantly, their ability to contribute to the community, and that is very real when salaries begin to stand still over time. Because with the $3.1 million cut looming over our heads and the budget that is 83% personnel, one of the places we have to consider reducing is the planned employee raise. If that happens, once again, our competitiveness in the employment marketplace takes a blow. It is sad that adequate salaries have to compete with programs for children. We cannot absorb the $3.1 million reduction without looking in both of those directions. So let me share what's on the table now. For the benefit of those in the audience, please know that the school system leadership has made no definite decisions on where to trim. Whatever plan administration comes up with eventually has to be approved by the school board. However, be prepared because some of the potential cost-cutting strategies we're talking about are raising class sizes, eliminating middle school sports, eliminating bus transportation for both specialty programs and school activities, and yes, trimming the planned salary increase. I promise we will communicate with stakeholders once this plan is in place. And finally, let me say this. I'm aware that Council received information regarding differences between the fund balances represented between the annual school report submitted to the Virginia Department of Education and our comprehensive annual financial report. The inference being that the $11.5 million difference is tantamount to the school system hiding money. Please note that my staff and I will be presenting to the school board Thursday night, touching on the difference in the mechanics of the two reports in our early analysis. More in-depth analysis will take place in the near future, and we will communicate those findings to the city manager. However, I will make one early notation here that the annual school report included. It included the $5.2 million in risk management funds that the city ultimately took from our schools. The annual school report was filed last September, and the city took those funds in October. So with that one explanation, trimming almost half of the $11.5 million difference is explained. Thank you, and I look forward to a positive response.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Isaiah Mariner, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you again for this opportunity to speak. I'm grateful. My name is Melvin Isaiah Mariner. I'm a resident of Portsmouth. I live at 46 River Green Court in Portsmouth, Virginia, 23703. And I am also a teacher, a coach of a couple different things, and a mentor to a lot at Churchland High School, a school that I did not graduate from and honestly is a rival to my alma mater. I graduated from Western Branch High School, and I am proud to be teaching in Portsmouth. I wouldn't go to Chesapeake if they paid me more. I will stay here because I love this city so much. It is ridiculous. And one of the things that I love about this city are the opportunities in education that I've seen my students have and the skill set that I've seen my students come into high school with now. I have one student by the name of Tony Cross, who I took with me to Norfolk State so we could speak to a doctor, Dr. Harold Lee. He works in the nanotechnology department at Norfolk State University. And when I took Tony over there, he was able to understand some of the more intricate things that Dr. Lee had to talk about. And we were talking about electricity, building microchips from organic materials and things of that nature. And when we looked at some of the different tests and things that they ran in their labs, Tony actually said to him, "Oh, I remember doing something like this at Starbase." So this freshman, he is 14 years old, is able to go to this graduate level institution, this graduate level program, and understand things that they have going on based on his experience in elementary school. And he's been able to learn so much from other opportunities that our school system has afforded him of late. I mentioned that I am a coach. I am a coach for the robotics team that is hosted at Churchland High School. We are first robotics competition team 3359, shortly known as Royal Robotics. And for the record, we are a world quality team. In 2017, my team, thanks to the funding provided by the school system in the city, was able to travel to the World Championships in St. Louis, and we were in the top 20 out of 60 teams in our division, our first time ever going. Our team has won competitions in the state, and just tomorrow we are going to the district championships, which is hosted at George Mason University. So a lot of my students are more than skilled, are able to do things that I didn't learn about until I actually went to college. Right now, as high school students, and we're going to this championship for our robotics competition. A couple other things that I noticed. My students have skills, like I said, that I wish that I had when I was actually in college. I'm a proud graduate of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. And when I was there are things that I had a hard time with because I had no prior experience, where my students now are getting this experience in my classroom with tools we have recently acquired, thanks to the funding provided by my school system and by my school. I am grateful to all of the leadership, and I understand entirely that hard decisions have to get made. But if the hard decision being made is to sacrifice our education, then the city as a whole will suffer, as several people prior to me have said this evening. If we do not train our students properly, there will be nobody here to take the types of jobs we hope to attract to our city. And then we will lose those businesses. We will lose these opportunities. Two of my students right now have an opportunity of working with Simmons Inc. and Dr. Johnny Garcia over there because of their experience in Starbase and the opportunities afforded to them while at high school, while at Churchland High School. These two students that I'm speaking about in particular are Sadiah Cox and Patrick Winch, the number 1 and number 2, the valedictorian and salutatorian at Churchland High School for this current graduating class. They are prime examples of what Portsmouth has been able to do for their students. And if we want to continue to see students like them come through our ranks and give back to their city as both of them intend to, we must fund these programs. Otherwise, we will have talented students and quality families leaving and going elsewhere. Those two families, Patrick's family and Sadia's family, have stayed in this city because they have felt as though education here is worth their time and worth their effort. I appreciate you all listening to me this evening, and I hope that you would amend the budget and support Portsmouth Public Schools. There are quality initiatives going on, and they will be stopped otherwise.
Your
Thank
time
you.
is up. The next speaker is Dr. Timothy Johnson. Dr. Timothy Johnson, will you come forward, please?
Good evening, Mayor Rowe and honorable members of the Portsmouth City Council. My name is Timothy Erskine Johnson. I'm the Vice President of the Portsmouth Principals and Assistant Principals Association and Association of Portsmouth School Administrators that are here with me tonight. I am also the principal of Woodrow Wilson High School, where I have served in that capacity for the past 14 years. This is my 29th year as an employee of Portsmouth Public Schools, and let me say, I have enjoyed every year of it. As school administrators, we're here tonight as representing the Portsmouth Schools family in support of Dr. Bracey's request for the 2019-20 school budget. First, I would like to commend you and the City Council on the State of the City presentation, where you reported that the state of the city is excellent. We agree that it is an exciting time to be working and living in Portsmouth. Please understand that our school division is a part of our excellent city. Our school administrators and teachers work tirelessly on developing and preparing our schools and students to be excellent. Give us the additional money so that we can continue on that track of excellence. You want excellence? Our schools can take you there. You want excellence? Our administrators and teachers are bringing you excellence. Everything costs. Please do not leave our schools behind. Fund the superintendent's proposed budget so that we will not have to cut programs, but give our staff the well-deserved raise that we deserve. The school division helped to develop that excellent rating, so fund us accordingly. During this time of year, our administrators are in the process of hiring teachers. During the interview and hiring process, our potential teachers are always asking about our salaries, class sizes, and benefits. Fund the budget so that we can hire quality staff and keep them in Portsmouth. Portsmouth Schools is a part of what makes Portsmouth excellent. Fund the budget accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Donna Clifton. Donna Clifton, if you'll come to the lectern, please. You got 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, and to the full City Council Board. My name is Donna Clifton. I'm the Portsmouth Council of PTA's president, 2301 Palmer Street, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23704. I'm also a proud parent of a 7th grader at Churchland Middle School. I'm also an employee of Portsmouth Public Schools as a substitute teacher, and I'm a proud citizen of Portsmouth, even though I'm an import from Memphis, Tennessee. Standing here with me are officers from my PTA board, and I'm sure most of you in the audience are PTA members. If not, we would love for you to be PTA members. Thank you, Mayor Rowe, for joining our school board members and taking the city's lead to join all of the local units here in Portsmouth. There's been so many speakers that have come here tonight to once again shed light on the reasons why additional funding is needed from the city to support our budget. Our message is clear, and we stand in support of Dr. Bracey's proposed budget. So I pondered on what I could say tonight that would shift this atmosphere. I'm reminded of Moses in the Bible when he went before Pharaoh several times asking for the release of the Israelites. Each time, Pharaoh said no. No matter how convincing Moses may have been, the answer remained unchanged. Pharaoh's heart had been hardened until it hit his house. Now, there are some of you I know on the council board that may be like Pharaoh, who've made a decision to always be the no vote. Every plea, every statistic, every possible loss of programs for our schools like Starbase, the teacher departures to neighboring cities because no raise has been given or that was mandated by the government, and the list just goes on, and we've heard all of those lists here tonight. But your heart has been hardened. I believe that there needs to be a heart transplant up in here tonight. I believe that if it were your child or your grandchild that was being affected by a potential program that's going to be lost that would stunt their growth and success, I believe your answer may shift to a yes. I believe that if it was one of your family members or your daughter or your wife who decided to apply at another neighboring city because we can't get it together in this city, I believe that your answer would possibly shift to a yes. So tonight I ask you, each one of you, to search your hearts and ask yourselves if the decisions that you are making regarding the funding of our schools is made with love and compassion and a thought process to shift this atmosphere so that Portsmouth can become that excellent city that you claim we are to be. I believe that if we don't apply fully what needs to happen in this city, that a shift will take place and that excellence won't be Portsmouth. Portsmouth is for people. That's the song we sing. Portsmouth is for the people. That's what we stand up and cheer. So if Portsmouth is for the people, it has to be for Portsmouth Public Schools. So I admonish you on tonight to shift your thinking. Shift from that hardcore no vote and shift to let me think about it. Let my heart be lightened, and let me think that maybe if we can't give it all, give them something. This is the same place that we were here last year. We should not keep coming here every year with a no vote. So I admonish you, soften your heart. Put your money where your mouth is. If you say you're going to do it, do it. Have the integrity, have the character, have the stamina to put your money where your mouth is, and that's in Portsmouth Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Crystal Whitfield Newton. Crystal Whitfield Newton, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Whitfield Newton.
Excuse me, ma'am. I'll give you
and
some
I
more.
reside at 2205 Calvary Court, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23704. I am a resident of Portsmouth, born and raised. I am a parent of students who attend I.C. Norcom High School, a 10th grader, and a 7th and 8th grader at Craddock Middle School. I am also a physical science teacher at Waters Middle School. I was a former physics teacher at Woodrow Wilson High School. I graduated from I.C. Norcom High School when I was 16 years old because of the STEM program that Portsmouth had. So I had something written, but I'm going to speak from my heart when I say that we deserve the money in the school system. I know what I do as a teacher, and I know what all of these other people do as teachers. I spend money out of my own pocket that I don't get back to ensure that my students have what they need. I'm the robotics coach along with Mr. Mariner over at Churchland High School. So I leave the middle school and I go over to the high school to service those students. When I leave the middle school, I'm at that high school till 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. So that is time that I am missing from my children, that I am not being compensated for. I know that these people behind me do the same thing for these children. So it is hurtful when it comes down to budget and you all don't want to fund us. That tells me that you don't care about us. When I accepted my position for Portsmouth Public Schools, I had 2 other offers on the same day. So I had 3 job offers, one from Suffolk Public Schools that I got at 9 o'clock in the morning. At noon, I had an offer from Newport News Public Schools to work at their STEM school. And then later that evening, I got a call that offered me my position at Woodrow Wilson High School. I chose to work in Portsmouth. I could be working at a STEM school somewhere else. But I chose to be here because I felt like this was home and this is where I would do the best in servicing the students. But Budget-wise, you guys tell us every year when you don't want to fund the schools that you don't care about us. So as a resident, as a parent, and as a teacher, why do I live here? Why do I pay taxes here? You don't care about us. That's what you send to all of us every year that there's an issue with the budget. I've taken students to St. Louis. They've seen state-of-the-art equipment, and then they come back to our room and see what we have. They have teams that are funded by Ford and other companies. What do we have? The school system backs us for whatever we need. Why can't we get the funding? I don't understand. It's not fair to us. It is not fair to our students. I have a 10th grader who is taking AP Environmental Science as a 10th grader. Where else in the city or in the other cities are our kids gonna get that? But if I have to pull my children, if I have to move, I will. If I have to go and apply for a job somewhere else, I will. There are only 6 FRC teams in the 757 area. We are 1. When I first started, we were, just a little team from Portsmouth. Now, because of how my students think and they're able to put their imagination into the robots that they build, we are that team from Portsmouth. People are recognizing us. We hold a robotics competition. We pack Churchland High School. Teams from all over, Virginia, Maryland, and DC. They come. When they talk about us, they enjoy our city. They enjoy coming back. So if me and Mariner were to leave, who's going to do this? From January to May, we are in that room 6 days a week sometimes. Who's going to give that commitment and not be compensated? So if we leave, the city won't have a robotics team anymore. Who's going to do it? Who's going to commit to it? So just like we feel like we should be compensated, I know that my colleagues behind me feel like that they should be compensated as well. You're going to lose us as teachers. You're going to lose parents because we're going to go somewhere and we're going to pay taxes in places that care about us, that care about our children. When you don't want to fund our schools, you tell us that you don't care about the students and you don't care about your citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Donna Sy. Ma'am, you've got 5 minutes.
I'm going to withdraw so the other people have.
That's fine. The next speaker is Kelvin Turner. And sir, you've got 5 minutes.
Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Burke, members of City Council, my name is Kelvin Turner, pastor of Zion Baptist Church, live at 225 Hatton Street in the city of Portsmouth. I'm the husband of a teacher. I'm a pastor of teachers. I'm a pastor of many students. I come here today because I'm not sure if we forget why we do what we do. We make it about numbers. And I think sometimes we just look at the numbers and we forget behind the numbers represent kids. Kids whose lives are depending on us. I know you have a tough time, but so does our teachers. They have a tough time, as you just heard one parent say, to be at school helping other kids when her kid needed at home. I know what it's like to want quality time with my wife and she's 3 hours later still doing homework. I know how much it costs out of our family budget for them, for us to finance stuff that she wants for her kids in her classroom. I think sometimes we forget why we're where we are. I heard somebody say today that we want to make sure about issues that we disagree with. We ought to be on the same side. All of us ought to want the best for our kids. All of us ought to want the best for our students and for our teachers. Now, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. We do have a tough population that we deal with. And because the population is tough, it requires us to do even more. You know, sometimes I hear the statement, well, we're losing enrollment. Well, if that's the case, did you ask yourself why? Are parents saying we want a system that's going to support us better? Are employees saying we want a different city? Or do we want to be the city where individuals come to say, well, we got to go through the tolls, but it's worth it to work in Portsmouth. We got to go through the tolls, but that council, they will support us and our dreams. We talk about $60 million for business coming in. Where those employees going to work? Here? Where the kids going to go to school? Here? Or are they going to find themselves hard pressed because we have not done what we can do for our schools? You know what? I think one of the problems is not only are we just looking at money, but I don't think we're really looking at the kids. Not close enough. If we have the target population that we have, then I know some of them will be the first ones in their families to go to college. And I'm excited that we have the opportunity to make sure they have the math tutors. I'm excited to make sure they have the curriculum specialists. For the parent who's scared, but they have to go to work, they can't attend, I'm excited for them to have the emotional security to know their child is going to be secure and safe in our facilities. It's not just 52 or 55 million. It's what do we want our school system to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Are we raising the graduates now that was going to be able to sit in those seats and lead our city? If we're not making the right choice, if we're not choosing the right decision, what's going to happen is we're going to build stuff on the waterfront and won't nobody be coming. Because they're going to say, this is not the city where we want to live, where we want our kids to go to school. We want this city to be a better place. We're here, you know why? Because we love Portsmouth. That's right. We're here, you know why? Because we believe in Portsmouth. We're here because we believe in our school system. The only thing we're asking is for you to believe with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mark Godalki-Otrowski. And, sir, you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. Because some of my fellow citizens are already standing, I would ask those of you who believe that this budget does a disservice to our schools, if you would stand and raise your dominant hand at the same time. If you believe that the city is strapped for money and that you would be willing to pitch in a little more to ensure that the schools can pay their employees fairly, please do the same thing. Stand and raise your hand. Thank you. Because the city prides itself on presenting budgets that include no tax increases. Well, you know, that is a laudable goal if you can accomplish it without decreasing the level of services. And if your revenue growth from property appreciation is inadequate to pay for new expenditures, because after all, we're not in a zero inflation time anymore, as we were at the end of as we were following the Great Recession. No, the economy has picked up. And so the cost of everything is going up. But if you don't have increased revenues from other sources, and you want to maintain services at prior levels, you have to raise revenue. So there is a willingness from a certain number of people who are present tonight to help make that happen on behalf of the schools. I'm one of them. If you can increase the city's budget despite the revenue issues that we face, if you can raise that budget by 2.76% as is proposed, why can you not increase the budget for the schools? If you say that the average daily membership in the schools is falling, and that's a reason not to raise the allocation to the schools, I tell you, and it's in the city manager's budget message, the population of the city of Portsmouth is falling, but we are not decreasing the demands on the citizens proportionate to the decrease in population either. The budget has been rising, 2.76%. The schools should be participating in that 2.76%. They're held to zero. That's wrong. You have allocated money for the state match for constitutional officer employee salary increases. You've allocated it. It was in the city manager's budget. Why not the employees of the schools? Where is that money going to come from if it doesn't come from the locality? The state has put up money. They've put up challenge money. We're challenged. We need to meet that challenge. We need to ensure that the school system employees are treated equitably. You need to do the right thing. The right thing is not level funding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing on the annual operating budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. Is there anybody that wants to speak on this matter at this public hearing? If you do, please come to the lectern and state your name, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. My name is Lorenzo Waters, 811 Hancock Avenue in the city of Portsmouth. I'm here tonight in support of education. And when I say in support of education, I'm talking about the budget in which the school board superintendent will submit to the council. I know that the council vote on the school budget, and I'm also against level funding. And I look back to last year when the vote for the school budget was 6-1, when the council did not support Dr. Brace's budget that he submitted to the council. And here we are again at the same spot, same place, same subject. Now, last budget, the money was there to support Dr. Brace's budget in which he submitted to the council, but the council just did not vote for it. Like I said, the vote was 6-1. And the only one that stood for Dr. Brace's budget was Dr. Whitaker. He always stood for education. He always supported education, unlike the other 6 who voted against it. And I've been living in Portsmouth for over 50 years. And it don't seem right that the superintendent, teachers, and the citizens of Portsmouth have to come to this council to beg for this council to support education. It's like that you don't think education is important. Now, dating back to last year during the budget, we were told that the money wasn't there to support Dr. Brace's budget. But like I said, Dr. Whitaker, which always stood for education, let us know that the money was there. And whenever you make out a budget, evidently, it wasn't placed in the budget. It wasn't placed in the budget to support education when the budget was planned. And it seems like the same thing is happening again. And like I said, I'm here. We know that this council is going to vote for education, for funding education. But I'm here tonight to ask that this council will support the budget in which the school superintendent, Dr. Bracey, submit to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Please hold your applause. Be polite. And ma'am, you'll have 5 minutes once the timer starts, and please state your name and address.
Greetings. My name is Kentrell Devin. I reside in Portsmouth, and I'll write my address down later. Greetings, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm here tonight because, Mr. Rowe, I remember when you ran and you won. One of the things you said in your meetings with Wavy was you were going to continue what you started with the school board. And you are doing just that, because when you were city manager, you never wanted to fund the school board. And you did a lot to make sure the school board wasn't successful, and the former superintendent eventually left due to the tenacity of your determination. So I stand here and apologize to the people who came before you pleading, because like they stated, 3 years continuously, the answer has been no. However, I wanted to piggyback off of my sister who spoke on Pharaoh and the children of Israel, because many people aren't familiar with that passage of scripture. They were slaves, the children of Israel, so they didn't have a choice. We are no longer slaves as citizens of Portsmouth. So we don't have to get to the promised land. We just have to make it to the polls. And I'm encouraging everyone here tonight, get to the polls. Do not plan your exit out of Portsmouth, because it only takes a vote. We have a lot of votes represented in this place tonight. And many of you have friends who will go along with you. Some do not even vote. It's time to make sure we get them to the polls. Do what needs to be done to end this. We don't have to shift the atmosphere. We just need to shift our vote.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Anybody else want to speak? Please come to the lectern. You'll have 5 minutes once the timer starts. This is a public hearing on the annual operating budget, the proposed budget. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. My name is Sandra Allen. I reside in Suffolk, Virginia. Earlier this evening, we heard from a teacher who teaches in Portsmouth, as I do, at Simonsdale Elementary. I'm a 6th grade teacher, about how she was offered several other positions before accepting the position in Portsmouth schools. I too had that opportunity. I had the opportunity to work in Suffolk. I had the opportunity to work in Hampton. I chose to work in Portsmouth. I came from Cleveland, Ohio, and I worked in inner city Cleveland with some of the poorest children in this country. So I'm aware of how hard a teacher has to work to make a child's life successful. And I chose Portsmouth because I saw the same challenge here. And I would love to remain here, and I would love to see the successful stories of these wonderful, beautiful, talented, intelligent children be successful. Hear more stories like we've heard from these coaches from the high schools. But I might not be able to do that because the cost that has become my burden because the children in this city, they can't afford to buy poster board for the alternative assessment that I am required to do by the Social Studies Committee. They can't afford to come to school with the folders and the notebooks that I now supply. And the costs of those things are increasing as well. So now my actual take-home pay that I look at every year, I actually have to put aside a certain amount because I know that I have to spend that for my students, who I refer to as my children, to have what they need to be successful. And now you're going to tell me that I'm not worth a raise? I think my children are worth it. It's a shame, a real shame, that the leaders of their own city don't think that the people who care for them the most aren't worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else would like to speak on the public hearing on the annual operating budget? Please come to the lectern. You'll have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address. And, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, other members of council. Good evening. My name is Ed Brown. I reside in the 200 block of Webster Avenue here in Portsmouth. I am a school teacher here for Portsmouth Public Schools. I've taught for the school system for 12 years. I feel very appreciated by our school system and the leadership, but by this city council, I do not feel valued as a teacher. And a lot of the teachers in this city also feel the same way. I'm here to ask you to vote for the superintendent's budget, because within his budget, he shows that he values me as a teacher and other teachers as well in this city. You all should be ashamed that Portsmouth is the only city in Hampton Roads that does not value its teachers. You're the only one. It's just this city. And furthermore, I will go on to say that the very poor treatment given to our school system didn't start until you became mayor, Mr. Rowe, quite frankly. Under the previous mayor, the school system was given the proper funding. Its teachers were valued. This just started when you became mayor. It needs to end in 2020. Good evening.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Come to the lectern. You'll have 5 minutes once the light starts. Please state your name and address. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Davina Williams, 34 Creekside Drive, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23703. Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Burke, and City Council members. I am a proud teacher of Portsmouth Public Schools, and I stand here as the chosen elementary teacher of the year, and not just of my school, but of the city. Thank you. First off, I would like to say that me and everybody behind me are the hardest working people that you'll ever find in your life. Not only are we teachers, we are nurses, psychiatrists, school security, and anything else that you can think about in our schools. Most of the time during the day, we have dealt with teachers or students who have come in every morning crying because they're hungry. They have dirty clothes. We have to take them in the hall, love them, console them, let them know how much we care for them day in and day out. But I don't hear that from this city council. We deserve the love and appreciation that we give our children every single day. Some of those children don't hear that they're loved from anyone except for those people who are in these schools in your city. All that we ask is that we're treated fairly, like other cities are. We just want to be valued, as the gentleman just said. Our wonderful, wonderful superintendent, Dr. Bracey, is always supportive of us. We see him in our buildings. The only time I've seen one of you in our buildings is usually for a photo opportunity. That's not okay. You can't come into our schools when we're having an event just to wave your hand and say, hi, kids, and not appreciate them. They're the most important things that we have in our city, is our babies. We call them our babies because they're ours. They're awake with us most of the day than they are with their own parents. We are moms and dads. I just got a card from a kid as a gift that said, Miss Williams, thank you for being mom number 2 and a dad that I never had. That meant a lot to me. So all that we ask is for you to just appreciate us and show us how much you value us. That's all we care for. Because a teacher like me, I give everything that I have every day in that classroom. If you come into Church and Academy room 405, you'll see flips and bounds and music and all type of things. Trust me, Dr. Bracey can kind of vouch for that. You'll see all types of hands-on activities and experiments that kids aren't able to have. And like other people said, Starbase is the best thing that we have going in this city. Envirobase, space-based, aero-based, those kids are given opportunities that most kids in any city don't ever have in their lives. So all we ask, once again, is that you value us and you appreciate us for the time that we lose with our own children every day. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old at home, and where am I right now when I should be giving my son a bath and putting him to bed? That is not okay. It's not okay that we put in too much time, day in and day out, and we are not appreciated. It is not okay that I stand here and cry before you because all we want is to be treated fairly. And I tried to hold back every tear as I sat back there and listened to those people. But it's time for somebody to really show you that we are hurting inside, and it's not okay. It's not. So do what you need to do and fix these problems. You are more than welcome to visit our schools. Come and see what's happening. That's all we ask for. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please come to the lectern. You'll have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Elvira Johnson Williams. Good evening, Council. I've sat here and I listened to all the teachers and Dr. Bracey. Now I'm going to give you a fix to your problem. I listened to your state when you addressed the city the other day, Mr. Rowe. And you said that we had this company coming in here with $60 million. Well, take $5 million from that and give it to Dr. Bracey. Or, let's see, we had to settle some suits out of court. So we take $725,000, $425,000, and $300,000. That's some money for Dr. Bracey as well. There's a way to fix your problem. Oh, and the retreats. Let's not forget the retreats. See, I know what those teachers are talking about because I do go into the schools. And I see the special needs class, they my babies, and they need. So we citizens have to, from now until August, you're gonna be hearing about back to school drives. You're gonna have one at Norcom, you're gonna have one at 4th Baptist, you're gonna have one at Zion, you're gonna have one at Wilson Ward, you're gonna have one all over this city, and it's not enough for these teachers. Because their biggest hurt come right after Christmas. You all telling us and these teachers that get up for dawn to finish grading papers because they fell asleep trying to finish for the next day with their reading plans. You're gonna tell us that you can't find $2.5 million to give Dr. Bracey, but you're gonna bring a company in here. That's funny. You're gonna bring a company in here at $60 million. You're gonna build luxury apartments where the ones you already got up about 60% empty. You keep on settling cases out of court because some of you council members don't know how to keep your mouth shut. So you get sued or you're gonna sue, and then you gotta settle out of court. And who gotta pay for it? We do. We're tired of it. Our teachers work too hard. They work long. They don't work 12-hour days. They don't even know what a 12-hour day look like. Some of these teachers, and I know for a fact, they pull 18 hours a day. That's minimal. It's sad to live in a city that claim to be so good, so loving, and to treat the stars, I call the teachers the stars because they are the hardest working people in the city. I have met with people that live here, that send their children to other districts to go to school. They don't even mind paying the toll, which that hurts them some more. So they got to put that much aside too. So I ask you, when do you start caring for somebody else other than yourselves? I'm just curious. I watch and listen to Mr. Nathan Clark correct somebody on grammar. Let's do the math. I listen to you people. Y'all get upset when other folks say it, but you people got the audacity to sit there and say that you serving us who voted for some of you. Notice how I put that, some of you. I've been singing this little song all week. It said, row, row, gotta go, go. And he need to take his cronies with him. You were voted to care for this city, and you don't. You show it every day. Oh, one more thing before my time is up. I got wind of the fact that you decided to cut off your non-agenda speakers. Well, if I remember, the former mayor tried to do the same thing, and if my memory serves me right, Bill Moody said, you can't do that. You would not be transparent. Well, Bill Moody, you're doing it anyway. Have a good day.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? Please come to the lectern. You'll have 5 minutes. This is a public hearing on the annual operating budget. The annual operating budget for 2019-2020. If you desire to speak, come to the lecterns. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening to the council. My name is Pell Seaton, a resident of Portsmouth. I live on Crawford Parkway. I am a school teacher at Victory Elementary School. I was going through and I looked at one of the letters, and I get letters from my kids all the time. They throw little "I love you, Miss Seaton" letters on my desk. But this one was special. And this is what I put on Facebook. This afternoon, while sitting in class just watching my students, I had thoughts of coming home and checking on my Social Security and how much I would get if I retired in a year. I also thought about my retirement funds that I've put away. Could I live off of that money? The bell rang, and this student gave me this note on her way out. I read it, and my eyes filled with tears. And I thought, well, girlie, get ready for Monday morning. Love 'em. This is the letter. Hi, Miss Seaton. This is Naomi, 3rd block. I'm sorry the 6th graders are loud, disrespectful, and bad listeners. I know you yell at us because you want us to be the best we can be. I want to thank you for waking up in the morning and coming to teach us. Thank you for taking the time to grade our work. You take the time out of your day to come and teach 75 students. You didn't have to do that. Out of all the jobs in the world, and she capitalized all, the jobs in the world, you chose to be a teacher. And I just want to thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Please come to the lectern. Anybody else? This is a public hearing on the annual operating budget, the proposed annual operating budget for 2019-2020. 2020 fiscal year. Any other speakers? Any other speakers? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, this public hearing is closed. And we go to item 19-140B. And before we do that, let's take a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 8:42. Madam Clerk, will you read the caption for this public hearing?
Yes, 19-140B, public hearing on the recommended 2020-2024 capital improvement program.
Again, we'll take the people who have signed up to speak at the public hearing first, and then after that, anybody can speak at this public hearing. And this public hearing on the proposed 2020-2024 5-year capital improvements program is open. And the first speaker is Donna Sy. And ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. Agenda item 19-140B is a public hearing on the recommendation for the year 2020 through 2024 capital improvement program. Well, I didn't see where there was a committee meeting for the citizens to learn about the 5-year plan. Is this the capital improvement plan that the city council members are voting on or will vote on? Let's look at Gloucester County's capital improvement plan that I gave y'all the last time I came up here. It was done on February the 5th, 2019. The CFO of Gloucester County gave the revenue projection review for the year 2019. Just so y'all to know that we don't get the same kind of education that other cities get on finances. Then the CFO gave the total expenditure projection for the year 2019. In addition, the CFO gave the total other financing sources, uses, project, and review for the year 2019. The CFO gave the status of the unassigned fund. See, something that we don't get. It's just others. The CFO reviewed the current and proposed debt policy parameters. The CFO reviewed the proposed debt policy limits in Gloucester. We, the people, didn't get any kind of information like the people in Gloucester County received, even though a citizen in Gloucester County took the time to show me how to get it. Lastly, there was a summary of recommended debt-funded CIP projects. So how are y'all going to start teaching the citizens about what's going on in our city? When? I'm a visual learner. I like to see things. I'm action-oriented. And there's no representation. I want to know things. And it's your responsibility to teach.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Mark Godolgi-Yatrowski, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. There are 3 items that I would like to see added to the capital improvement plan. The first and most significant of these is the replacement of our current jail. I believe that it will be critical for the redevelopment of this section of the waterfront for the council to decide on a strategy for replacing the existing jail and to move forward with that. Whether it be building a freestanding jail or building a new pod at the regional jail is immaterial to me as long as what is done provides for the safety of those who are housed in the jail and provides for the maintenance of our sheriff's department. It's my understanding that there is nothing that would prohibit our sheriff's deputies from administering a Portsmouth pod at a regional jail. I may be in error on that, but I believe that needs to be investigated and acted on if we decide to go that route. But either way, if you're talking about putting up high-end multifamily development on this piece of property, I cannot see people wanting to buy in if they're staring at a decrepit jail across the way here. The jail should be the first step in redeveloping the waterfront. Secondly, I would want a capital improvement to rehabilitate Willett Hall. It is a one-of-a-kind venue in this city. It is our largest indoor multi-purpose facility, and it has a long and honorable tradition. We should not let it fall of its own weight. We should not knock it down. Third, we should rehabilitate the Port Norfolk Recreation Center as a capital improvement project. It is a valuable piece of property in the Port Norfolk neighborhood. Its architecture is consistent with the neighborhood, and it is an anchor structure in Port Norfolk. So those are the three new capital improvement projects. I would suggest to you that in consultation with the school board, in collaboration with the school board, you have a discussion about taking one of our newer elementary schools and refitting it to serve as a new middle school. There should also be a conversation about consolidating the remaining elementary schools. We have at least 4 elementary schools that are relatively modern, and some of them have land adjacent to them that could be used to meet the requirements for a middle school. Structurally, they have the capability of sustaining middle school operations. We should look for a way to parlay what we have, as we did when we rehabilitated Victory Elementary and made it our Starbase location. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on the 5-year capital improvements program? If you do, please come to the lectern, and you'll have 5 minutes. This is a public hearing on the proposed 2020-2024 capital improvements program. You need not have signed up to speak at this public hearing. If you desire to speak, please come to the lectern. Seeing none, then we'll declare this public hearing closed, which brings us to item 19-140, C, which is a public hearing on the proposed changes to rates and levies for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. And before we have the clerk read the caption, Mr. City Attorney, as a point of order, this includes the tax rates?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council, that is correct.
Okay. So if council were to consider, let's say, increasing the operating budget by $3 million, and that required a 4-cent tax increase, when we get to that point in our budget discussions, this public hearing would have covered that?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, you have another public hearing coming up. There is a notice requirement, but I believe it's only 7 days out. So there is an opportunity to do that.
Okay, after that public hearing, though, if we were to consider raising the real estate tax rate in order to come up with $3 million, and let's assume that that was 4 or 5 cents, would a public hearing be required other than this one? Yeah, and feel free to research that. You don't have to answer.
Certainly. I'll provide you an answer in the
Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, will you read the caption of this public hearing?
Yes, 19140C, public hearing on proposed changes to rates and levies for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020.
This is a public hearing on what you just heard, proposed changes to rates and levies for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. And we have 2 registered speakers, and I declare the public hearing open. And our first speaker is Donna Sy, and this is a public hearing. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. Agenda item 19-140C is a public hearing on proposed changes to rates and levies for the year ending June 30th, 2020. There was no reasoning why there was going to be an increase to the rates and levies for the year ending June 30th, 2020. And I think I just heard you right. You want to increase the real estate rate? Something's wrong in the accounting system in Portsmouth.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Mark Godolgi-Otrowski, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. So I already tipped my hand in part. As I indicated earlier this evening, I would be in support of a rate increase as our neighbors in Norfolk saw fit to do last year in support of an increase for the schools. The amount, as somebody who's whose property assessment stands just a little below $300,000, this would mean an additional $50 a year for a 2-cent increase, and so $100 a year for a 4-cent increase. But I believe it is vital that the schools be funded adequately. I want to urge you to rethink your occupancy tax proposal. To go from $0 to $3 in one whack is probably going to help depress tourism. You think they won't notice? You think they won't notice that it costs them $2 to go back and forth from their hotel to other parts of the region because of tolls? People are price sensitive. I believe if you want to impose a tax where you've not had one, do it in steps. Start with $1 this year and ratchet up. I also am skeptical about giving you a green light on the water fee increases. I know that some time back the city laid out a prospective plan of doing annual increases of 5% to cover anticipated costs. It's been a while since you've actually laid out the rationale for that. Before imposing a water rate increase, I would ask that you explain what that is paying for. Show the income and the outgo so that the people know you're playing fair with them. The Water Enterprise Fund has been used as a cookie jar in the past. And city attorneys have provided opinions that taking money from that enterprise fund as payment in lieu of taxes and transferring it to the general fund is allowed under law. But I don't consider it legitimate. If you're doing general fund expenditures, they should come from general fund revenue. In my view, the water rates should be what are necessary to pay for the cost of operating the system and to pay for the production of the product that is being delivered to the citizens. So I ask you, before you approve a rate increase for water, you show the balance sheet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And this is a public hearing. It's a public hearing on the proposed changes to rates and levies for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. And if you desire to speak, please come to the lectern, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council.
Can you start the clock, please?
Garland Alexander, 2913 Tannenbark Lane. Mayor, you asked me, I think last year, or you said I hit on the right thing last year about tax increase. I don't believe it's necessary, but if you're going to start talking about raising taxes, I said it last time, then as a retiree, we need to be a part of that. So if we're going to raise taxes for the schools that you suggested, we surely would believe that you would also add the request we had for the $100 across the board supplement. We would support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? This is a public hearing. Anybody else wants to speak on this matter, which is before council, which is the proposed changes to rates and levies for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020? Any other speakers? Any other speakers? This public hearing is closed. We come to the last public hearing, which is a public hearing on a conditional use permit application UP 19-04. And Madam Clerk, will you read the caption for this public hearing?
Yes. UP-1904 Keeman Heights. Mark Parker of Satisfied Home Builders requests a use permit for 4 townhomes at 3800 Turnpike Road at a density of 10 units per acre in the urban residential UR zoning district. The property is designated on the future land use map in the city's comprehensive plan for mixed-use corridor uses. Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions.
The procedure that we'll have for this prior to the public hearing, we'll ask the applicant, if the applicant is present, to come forth. The applicant will have 10 minutes to explain the application. After that 10 minutes, I'll ask the city manager to cover any technical details, and then we'll have the public hearing. So if the applicant is present, please come to the lectern, and you'll have 10 minutes. Please identify yourself and your address.
Hello, my name is Mark Parker. 936 La Cove Drive, Virginia Beach. I come to you all today, request a use permit for 4 townhomes on the corner of Turnpike Road in Utah. There are 4 townhomes. The square footage is around 1,850 square feet each. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. There's 2 off-street parkings, 2-car garage. There's sidewalk and along the property street frontage. The very end property facing Turnpike Road will have a entrance for the garage from Utah Street, which allows more safety instead of being on the main road. Assuring landscaping and aesthetics pleasing to the neighborhood with trees and other type of shrubbery. These homes will be efficient homes with totally electric, affordable. They're going to be priced in around $170,000. Trying to provide some affordable housing for first-time home buyers, something new, and things of that nature. There'll be siding as far as exterior with asphalt shingles. As again, I say 2-car garage, pretty much as the model you see on the screen. There'll be a replica of that. Also, the potential of generating growth and revenue for the community, including the growth of local businesses and things of that nature. And that's what I'm here and I'm requesting approval for this project.
Does any member of council have questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Patton? Miss Sir. Oh, I can't see you. Mr. Parker, we do have a question for you. Can you come to the left?
Mr. Parker.
Yes, sir.
You're an entrepreneur.
Yes, sir.
You the engineer on this project?
Yes, I'm the developer.
Oh, okay. I'd like to say congratulations, good luck, and good job.
Thank you.
Dr. Patton.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, I'm asking Mr. Bob Baldwin to come forward, please. Deputy City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, members of council. As has been noted, this is a use permit application for a 4-townhome project. As the applicant noted, the corner unit, the one that's on Turnpike and Utah, the corner will actually face Turnpike, and the garage will be located on Utah, so that all the garages will all face Utah, so there won't be any slowdown and any safety with access off the Turnpike. This application went to the Planning Commission at their meeting of March the 5th. They conducted a public hearing and by a vote of 4-0 recommended approval with the 6 conditions that are included in your staff report tonight. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have about the project.
Any questions to, what is the density of the neighborhood going between Turnpike and Airline there?
I wouldn't have that off the top of my head. This is probably slightly above, single family density because these are townhomes, but they are, this is consistent though with what's in the zoning ordinance and what's called for in our conference plan.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. With that, I'll declare the public hearing open. This is a public hearing on conditional use permit 19-04. If you desire to speak either for or against this conditional use permit, please come to the lectern. You'll have 5 minutes. Again, this is a public hearing. If you desire to speak either for or against this application for a conditional use permit, please come to the lectern. You'll have 5 minutes. Hearing none, this public hearing is closed, and this matter is before us on first reading. So that we can put it before us, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion that's been made to approve the conditional use permit application. Any discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that passes on its first reading. This matter will be up for second reading at Council's next regular meeting. Which brings us to the City Manager's report, item 19-142, the consideration of the adoption of a certain ordinance. And Madam Clerk, will you read the caption to the ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance amending the funding source in the FY 2019 Capital Improvement Fund budget for the water treatment plant building assessment and repairs project for revenue from revenue bonds to cash.
So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt?
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion on the question? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Which brings us to item 19-143, consideration of another ordinance. And Madam Clerk, will you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance establishing a personal property tax relief percentage of 53% for calendar year 2019 personal property tax bills.
So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt?
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. It's to adopt the motion. Any discussion on the question? Ready for the question? All in favor of the question, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries. The next item is 19-144, which is the consideration of a motion. And would you read the caption, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. A motion to permit the adoption of a Portsmouth Police Department K-9 unit dog named Eli.
So that we can consider this matter, it is a motion. Is there a motion to this effect?
Move adoption.
Is there a second? We have a motion before us. Any discussion on the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Which brings us to new business, 19-145, boards and commissions, and I think we'll have a report next time. Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah. Item submitted by council, 19-146. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let the public know that this coming Saturday, April 13th, is the annual Great American Cleanup. It will kick off at City Park at 8 o'clock in the morning. There are lots of groups still looking for volunteers to help clean up all around the city and neighborhoods. There are military groups, school groups, church groups, scout troops, community organizations. If you'd like to volunteer or have an area you want to work on, you can call 393-8663 for more information. On a sad note, I want to let you know that the parade of horses, the Buffalo Riders that was scheduled for April 20th has been canceled by the organizer. We'll let you know if that gets rescheduled. And the following Saturday, April 27th, is the annual Cause for Paws to benefit the Portsmouth Humane Society. There will be a fun run and a dog walk. The activities will take place on the grass outside the Union Bank and Trust Pavilion outside of City Hall. And that begins at, the race is at 9, the walk is at 10, and the event goes on through the afternoon on the grass outside the pavilion. And that's Saturday, April 27th. And that's all.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to address everything that was said in the last hour and a half, but one figure that did stand out, it was mentioned by one of the speakers that we were somehow given the company that's going to be building a wonderful cold storage facility, that we were going to give them $60 million. Well, they're making a $60 million investment. This council and this city is not giving them $60 million. I think that's something that needed to be corrected, as ludicrous as it was.
Thank you, sir. Chair recognizes Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all for staying here and being patient with us. I just wanted to make a statement this evening because I heard a lot from the folks that were talking about school funding and how we're arriving at that. But before I make the statement, I want to say to everyone, I did not run for this council seat to be a member of status quo. I've run businesses in this city, and I understand what it means to be accountable for the decisions that you have to make. With that said, I wanted to use my skills and my abilities to be an enhancement and a positive force on this city council, to be fair and equitable to all of our citizens, and I intend to do just that. But I wanted to bring a point up tonight because we've heard a lot of stories about the ADM, which is a part of the average daily attendance that goes into the budget calculations for our public schools. And I know that there's been mention from, our city manager about ADMs, and that's one of the reasons why we have not decided to add additional funding to just do level funding, because the ADMs have declined in our school system. But it's important, I think, that we get to the community why that's not an acceptable answer to me. The cities of Portsmouth's population has steadily declined since the Great Recession of 2008. Here are the following population numbers. 2014, we had 96,000 people. 2015, 96,135. 2016, 96,71. 2017, 94,572. Accordingly, the city manager's budget of $248,405,876, or it includes a 2.7% increase, which equates to amount of $6.6 million. Items included in that budget is funding for a 2% general wage increase, also a local share match reserved for the governor's 3% raise for constitutional offices and staff. I just need someone to explain to me this. How can we ask for rate or raise increases with declining city population when we are giving level funding to schools using the same reason that we're not going to fund our schools because of declining school populations? And let me give you some background on reasons for our declining average daily membership. Early January, 150 students complete courses early. So those 150 students don't finish out the full school year because they finished their courses early. So that's one of the contributors. Also, the impacts of the ADM are recorded in March. So when those 150 students leave in January, that's a part of that impact. Also, in our school division, we have a lot of military children. And as you know, that's a transient population. So we lose children as military families transfer. Also, the city as a whole is not experiencing new growth. And that directly impacts the number of new students to the division. So the reason why I share that with you is because I'm here to be accountable to you, the citizens that elected me, and I want to be absolutely transparent. And I want to be fair and equitable. And if we do one thing for one, we must also do the same thing for the other. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This brings us to report on pending items, 19-147. Are there any pending items?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, there are no pending items.
This concludes our regular agenda, and we now go to item 19-148, non-agenda speakers. Speaker, and this meeting is adjourned.